Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Jim Bell. I'm here with my wife, Bonnie. We are the majority shareholders at Bell Investment Advisors, and we're here today to talk about our favorite philosophy, making a good life happen. Bonnie?
Hi, everybody. I'm here, and I just wanted to make a note about the photo on the first page. So we've got the background photo that you might wonder about. And this is from our trip to Bhutan, which just was an invitation out of the blue 3 years ago for us to go to the little tiny nation of Bhutan and to deliver a presentation to the government officials in Bhutan about investment management in the United States. So I thought it was a good photo to kind of express something. Jim and I are well into Act 3, which we're going to talk about today, and in making a good life happen, which is an active strategy. So I thought the photo of Bhutan was one example of wonderful surprises that can happen that you didn't count on. Most people anticipate bad things happening, but sometimes really good things happen. And then also the particular photo of us where we're all dressed up and we're going to the symphony. And the symphony is an example of one of the things that makes our life good and rich. So we brought music into our life, and that also represents a way to make a good life happen.
So, thank you. So as we go through this conversation today, please submit any questions or comments that you have. If you're having any audio or visual problems, please call our office here at 800-700-0089. 800-700-0089. We have people on the phone that can help you. Okay. I have a little trouble turning the page. Here we go. So, Bonnie, you want to make some comments here?
Yeah. So basically, at the heart of what we're trying to do is help people understand that this basic philosophical question, it's really at the heart of all philosophies, and it's always had to do with defining what a good life is. So if you think about religions, you think about different philosophies, it's an attempt to define what a good life is. The glitch is that nobody can tell you what a good life is for you. So you have to answer that question for yourself. And it's a hugely challenging question, but it is not impossible to answer. And from our point of view, many people don't try and answer it because they think it's too overwhelming. So we've designed a process here that can help you answer that question for yourself. And everybody needs to do some thinking, some reflecting, have conversations with lots of friends, family, and experts about the big questions that you're not clear about. So as we go through this presentation, please take notes. So make it connect with what your concerns are, or your ideas, or elements of what a good life is for you.
So we have a new distinction here at Bell Investment Advisors that we call constructive conversations. And it really speaks to what Bonnie was just talking about in terms of living a good life. And what we mean by constructive conversations is when you begin talking, there's something that you want to change. And when you finish the conversation, you've accomplished that change. So we're going to give you some specific examples of what that looks like, what a constructive conversation is made up of, and we're putting it in the context of the way we look at life. And you see a reference here to Act 1, 2, and 3. And what this means to us is that we look at life in 30-year increments. So your first 30 years are really about your formation, your education, uh, marriage perhaps, your relationships, maturity, becoming independent in the world, beginning to form your identity. Act two is the consummation of marriage, the having children, uh, finishing your own education, starting to plan for their education if you have children, your relationship to money and wealth, career, all those important concerns. And Act 3 is once you reach the age 60, uh, we call it Act 3, which is what occurs between 60 and 90 and beyond. So these are some of the things that we're going to focus on in our conversation today. So here we have a list of things that certainly are relevant to Act 3. And Bonnie, why don't you tell the story about the new client that we're working with that talked about reimagining her life?
Yeah, this really is something that just occurred very recently that affected our thinking because this new client who's doing financial planning and also some career conversations was talking about, as she was preparing for the meeting, she was thinking about her negative relationship with money, as she put it, and that she's very enthusiastic about changing her relationship with money now that she's in Act 3. She just turned 60 and she just got married, very happily married. So she's in a very different situation than she once was, which was a lot about having sudden wealth and then having periods of no wealth. And admits freely she was not a good planner, but she's tired of kind of living by the seat of her pants. And she's capable of making big money, but not exactly knowing what to do with it. So I think that's symbolic of what everybody can begin to think about in Act 3, is to reimagine how you want your life to be. So it's never too late to make positive change, proactive change. So think about it for yourself when you think about all the elements of your life, is that it's an opportunity to make some things happen that weren't possible in previous times of life. And did you have a story too?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about one of the themes here in regards to retirement. We have another client recently who we've worked with for many years, and this was a client that never really appreciated or saw the application of financial planning or retirement planning. His philosophy was that I make as much money as I can, I save as much money as I can, and you invest it as well as you can, and I end up with what I end up with. Well, that worked for a number of years, but suddenly he and his wife began to experience a lot of pain in that their work schedules and the wear and tear on their bodies and their psyche became more than what it was like when they were 20 years younger. And so it was really the pain of not knowing how much longer were they going to have to do this, how much longer were they going to have to work at the pace that they were working at. And they finally came to us and had a conversation where what they wanted to change was they didn't want to be in pain. And as we worked with them here in the office and back at their home about the real-time issues, we were able to determine a date in the future when they wouldn't have to work at that schedule that now is beginning to aggravate them. So it was an example of a constructive process and a conversation where it started in a lot of pain and it ended in a great deal of joy and celebration because they had an end point that was very specifically tested and grounded in real financial facts. I also wanted to talk about a conversation that I had just within the last week. Actually, I was out. I was having a boys' night out, having dinner with some of my male friends, and one person I know announced that he had just written the last tuition check for his son, and we might think that that would be a celebratory event. He actually confessed that between his son and his daughter, who's older, he's paid out approximately $500,000 in tuition checks to educate his two children. So you might think that that would be a tremendous relief and a cause for levity and celebration. But in his case, he actually said that he was actually quite sad about it. It was actually a moment of grief for him because obviously life is changing. He's very close to his son. He's really enjoyed sort of being a part of and a companion to his son as he went through undergraduate school. He would travel to Arizona to go to basketball games with him. And all this, of course, is coming to an end. So the meaningful thing for me and the constructive conversation about it is that, you know, it was good for the father to be able to share that with people that he trusted, but it was also good for us as his men friends to understand that behind our money is always our humanity and the emotions that are part of our lives and that money is connected to. I just have one other story about another conversation I had recently. This is with a prospective client. They're not even clients, but the husband in this group told me that he and his wife were having a big argument because she wanted to pay down their mortgage by $500,000, and he thought that was ridiculous from a pure financial perspective. And as I understood more and more about their situation, you know, it was clear to me that given their net worth and everything, it would be relatively easy for the husband to compromise and take care of his wife emotionally by making her happy with something that she wanted. It wasn't going to affect their net worth or their growth prospects for the rest of their assets. It would have some effect, but not a major effect. And I think that's just another example of it's important. I mean, we certainly are aware of this all the time, that it's not just financial analysis, it's also emotional intelligence and emotional health and emotional compromise in relationships.
I want to just make one comment about work and retirement that I'm sure most of you are thinking about. But a couple of just good examples, like to begin thinking positively about how do you want to change it? How do you want to have more enjoyment? A couple of recent examples. We have a client who was a minister for her whole career, and when she retired, she started getting into much more creative, dramatic work, and she's taken her 5 years. She's worked on a beautiful documentary. Jim and I just went to see it in San Francisco on Saturday night. So those kind of dreams are possible. It all depends on your story, your focus, how you want to tweak your retirement, but to think of it as making good things happen, because life is long, and from 60 to 90 is long. We have plenty of clients who we plan in financial planning for 100 because people are living so much longer now. So you have a lot of time to do something that you've always wanted to do. And that's a great thing to see people celebrating in retirement and not bored or not feeling disconnected from the marketplace.
So I just wanted to comment quickly here on what financial planning accomplishes or what it is. And for us here, it starts with determining your financial location. Where are you actually right now? And we meet with parents all the time that are preparing to send their children off to college, and location is very important in that conversation. How ready are you? What are the choices going to be? What are the opportunities? Private schools, public schools, what's realistic, what's the time horizon, how much is enough, how much do you want the children to participate in paying for their education or doing student loans. So these are vital questions in terms of providing people with a plan and giving them peace of mind. And it does create a momentum to have a plan instead of suffer or panic or worry. These are the key benefits of planning. Bonnie?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point, though, that often when people think about retirement, they have a negative focus about it and a lot of concern, which is, of course, important to have concern. But you also have a lot going for you in Act 3. Actually, you've never had more power. You've probably never had more wisdom. And you have an opportunity to follow what you already know is working for you. It's not a big mystery. You want to really look at what has worked and what hasn't worked. And for the things that have really worked for you, you want to keep them. That produces yes energy. It creates a scenario where you have lots of good things happening. And then when you're acknowledging that, you can focus on the areas that are more challenging. But you have enough good energy about it that it makes it possible. So this next slide really applies to that. And we wanted to remind you, if you haven't incorporated our momentum strategy. So the active strategy that we use, which is a momentum-based strategy in one of our investment strategies, really reflects concerns in the other areas that we work with. So the questions underlying the strategy of a momentum-based strategy are what's working, what's not working, what's missing, and what's next. So if you just apply these simple questions to the scenario in your life, we find that people can really access those questions pretty simply. Most people, when they come in for the career conversation, they can tell me if I ask them, what's working, what's not working, what's missing, and what's next. So often, it's the first time people have used those simple questions to access their location. And then it indicates the areas that you have to work on. And you can take them one by one. They will prioritize themselves. So keep track of those questions, and you can apply them to all the Act 3 situations that are occurring.
And one of the things that Bonnie shares with me a lot is that a lot of the people that she talks to and works with really beat themselves up about their life history, that they studied the wrong thing in college, they started out in the wrong career, their first marriage was bad, and I'll let her comment on this, but one of the things I try to remind myself is that if I'm happy now with my circumstances, my location, and my direction, then everything that led up to who I am now contributed to my happiness and satisfaction now. So do you want to say a little bit more about that, Bonnie?
Yeah, it's going to come up a little bit later here too. But this is very surprising. It might be surprising to you because we all assess people all the time. You look at this person in your life and you think, oh, they're so successful. They've got everything going. They did everything right. And then often people look at themselves, and even if they're extremely successful or they've done very well in their career, often they don't think of themselves that way. They're So it's a nature of people to listen more to the negative than to the positive. And there's scientific research about why that is, that our brains tend to listen more to the negative voices because it's like trying to help us protect ourselves and continue in life. So it's all geared toward pointing out negative things, but in people, it creates a fear base that people are looking at their situation from. And it's normal, but it's not helpful. So you also want to be looking at what works. So that's what this particular slide is about, is you already know what works for you. You know what makes you happy. You know when something creates happiness for you or satisfaction. So you want to look toward the things you already know about yourself and what works. So what do you love to do, having to do with your activities, what you care about most, having to do with your values. You can continue down the list, but there's so to look at possibility and reimagining is incredibly powerful. So it's something that we kind of need to train ourselves to do because we don't normally approach life that way. So continuing then with what's working, what do you love to do? You can do it every day. You can spend more time at it when you think about having more time during retirement. So one couple that came to mind, both very interesting people, had very, very intense careers. And so in their retirement, they're continuing to do so many things they love. In her case, music. So she sings with a professional choir. She's having voice lessons. She's singing more than she ever had room to sing before, and she absolutely loves it. And her husband, who was a very successful businessman, but he also had a real artistic side. So he's creating sculpture. He right after he retired, he went to UC Berkeley and took all kinds of classes he'd always wanted to take. And then he really indulged this love that he had of pottery and sculpture. And he's creating incredible works of art. And that was nothing he had time for in Acts 1 and 2.
So the other side of our life strategy in terms of looking at what's working is the next question, what's not working? And this is just as important as what you want to go towards. What do you want to turn away from? And we're all aware of times when we've been associated with people that weren't good for us. There's realistically there are people in all of our lives that just do not contribute to what we want. They really make us smaller, not bigger. We're been in business here for 23 years as Bell Investment Advisors, and we have a team of 16 people. And over that time span, we've certainly made some mistakes in terms of people that we hired and had on our team. And we've just learned that we have to quit some people. It's not fair to the rest of our employees or our clients, or certainly us, to have negative energy that holds us back and pulls us down rather than builds us up. So those discernments are very, very important.
And also, health is something that comes up all the time. You've heard people say you lose your health, you've lost everything. Well, you just want to heed those messages. If you've got bad habits such as smoking, drinking, whatever, it is not going to create a good future. So at some point, you can be proactive and actually get some of those things out of your life. I saw too many people in my own family, wonderful people whose lives were pretty much wrecked by alcohol. So I'm sure we're all familiar. Look around your own family and friends, and who's made those transitions well. You can have conversations with those people. And then to remember that you're going to continue to evolve even during retirement.
So this is our final content slide. We've had many conversations here for years about the phenomenon of work, and that there's nothing automatic or prescribed that all of us should want to retire early or retire at 62 or 65 or whatever it might be. Our philosophy here is if you love what you're doing and you continue to contribute to the world and to yourself and your family, why would you want to quit that? Some of our heroes are people that have stayed in the game into their 80s and 90s. And in terms of our history, during the 1990 go-go years, where you could throw money at a dartboard and make a lot of money in tech stock in the 90s, a lot of people were asking, well, how soon can I quit working? And after the setbacks with the dot-com bubble bursting and the financial collapse in 2008, that conversation we've observed has changed. Why would you or why would I stop working? So if you love what you do, keep doing it. And we're here to have constructive conversations about all the things that we've talked about, because we're very experienced at bringing about change, positive change for people. So that's the end of our formal presentation. If you did submit questions, we'll make sure that we answer them offline. We're coming up at the end of our scheduled time for this broadcast. Here's all the ways that you can contact us. We do record these webinars, so it'll take about a week, and we'll record this version of this webinar, and you'll be able to listen to that again, or if you couldn't listen live, it'll be recorded, and we have a whole library of other significant topics that we've covered over the past several months. So please take advantage of our website, and there's lots of ways to stay connected with us through Twitter and LinkedIn and our blogs on career and life coaching and financial blogs. So thank you for your interest, and we'll look forward to speaking with you soon.